Hello everyone, this is Tim Heisterkamp with Journey Financial coming again with you with some investment tips. Today we're going to talk about the compounding of interest or the time value of money and how that works for you over the long haul. So I'm going to start by just giving you an example of how the compounding of earnings or the compounding of interest works. And the example I have is right here. If you started with a $10,000 investment and your rate of return is 10%. Now I use the rate of return because when you go all the way back to 1957, that has been about the approximate average of the stock market over the long haul, a little over 10% actually. So let's pretend you invest $10,000 and you make 10% in the first year. Well, at the end of the year, your earnings would have equaled about $1,000. And the reason I use a rate of return in earnings is because earnings can be a combination of things. It could be interest, it could be dividends, and it could be a capital gain that you earn on your investment. In other words, when you buy low and sell high. But let's pretend at the end of the year you earn $1,000, and instead of spending that money, you add that to your principal, and so at the beginning of year two, you have $11,000. Well, if you make another 10% there, your earnings at the end of the year would be $1,100. Now let's say you get to the end of the year, instead of spending that, you add that to your principal. So now you have $12,100 at 10%. You made $1,210. You do that again the next year. You make $1,331. You add that in, you make $1,464. And if you keep doing that year after year, when you hit year 20, you will have $67,275 in your account. Now let's break that down a little bit. When you start with your original investment of $10,000 and you make $1,000 a year, then you've made $20,000 of interest over the course of that time. 20 years of earnings from principal was $20,000. You take out the $10,000 and that means now you have $37,275 left. Where did that come from? That came from the power of compounding, earnings that you've earned on earnings. And that is the beautiful thing about investing for the long haul. Now at the very top of my sheet here, I put 4 factors that determine what the future value of your account is. Time, the present value, which is how much money you start with, the rate of return, which we talked about. It could be your interest rate, it could be your dividend yield, or it could just be your capital gains that you make. And finally, do you add any money to this? In other words, if you started with principal, $10,000 of principal, and you added more principal to that every year, that would even further increase your earnings over time. But out of these factors, we tell people over and over again, quite possibly the most important one that you have is time. When we talk to the kids in the high school and we talk about this very concept about the time value of money or the compounding of earnings, we ask them, what do you think is the most important? And the kids always say time, which is something that these kids have a lot of. At 18 years old, they have a lot of time in their hands. So anyway, grab a hold of this. If you want to do your own calculations on investments and what they look for in the future, go to our website, journeyfinancialllc.com. You can get there by just typing in planwithtim.com or planwithmax.com. That'll get you to our calculators, and you can do these calculations online all by yourself. So until next time, and we have our next investment tip, this is Tim Heisterkamp with Journey Financial.